Okay, we're live. Welcome to Brigham Larson Pianos. We're going to do our Facebook Live thing. It's Wednesday morning. As you know, every Wednesday morning at about this time, about 6:15, 6:20 or so, we do this. We talk about pianos. So we're going to start with David's restringing and what you're learning.
Yeah.
So a good restringer. A good restringer that we saw at the factory. It's about 45 minutes.
To do the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
With the right tools.
With the right tools.
Okay.
That's right. But we shoot for more like 10 to 12 hours here. That's our goal. So do you want to start there?
Yeah.
Let's go do it. You made some progress.
Yeah. So I changed my method a little bit. Let's see. I prefer to do this with a bright light.
Want to use this one?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Just have to plug it in. Yeah, I think it's plugged in through this wire.
It's around the...
Good morning, Peter. That looks really
Is
good.
that working? I'm using the bag.
It's not plugged in.
Yeah, I'm plugging it in.
No.
Oh, it's not plugged in on this end.
Oh, haha.
Always
Is it working
check
there?
the plug. A lot of tools that you need to restring a piano.
Here.
There it goes.
That
We
working?
have light.
Yep, it's on.
Yeah.
So you said you had a breakthrough yesterday.
Yeah, so, well, my breakthrough was I watched a shop video with Brigham that he was showing his method, and it's much faster. And it includes coiling the string right onto the pin. Before I was doing it, oh, that's the bit. I didn't want that to be misplaced.
Oh, and here's your cup of water to cool down
The
the
cup
spoon
of,
bit.
yeah, exactly, because it got so hot last night.
Is the spoon the one that goes into the bin block? To make
It's
it
So do you want me to explain, or do you just want me to do it?
Why don't you
That
explain?
is this one.
Okay, so you first spring the string under the capo, and then you put your pin into the twisty thing. I don't know what this is called.
Coil maker?
Coil maker. You make sure that your wire is a little tiny bit out of the pin. You put pressure on the string. Some people will drape their finger over, but I don't find as much control that way. And then you put pressure from this, and you want to twist it. And Joe told me to twist it quickly, especially on the first coil, so it doesn't get out of hand, basically. And so the becket stays a full length. So 1, 2, and then a half, and a little bit extra on the coil. And the nice thing about this is that you can, I angle it the way I want it to be in here before I pull it through. Otherwise, it will just like go all over the place. And then I make sure that it's pointing this way. And then I start putting it in, and the pin actually goes a little bit away from the string on this angle, so when you put it in, you want to make sure that you're not pushing it in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. You didn't do the spoon bit.
I've already done that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I need to do those for up here. And then what I'll do is, once I get this hammered in, and one thing I was doing before was I was measuring it to 15/16, and that took a considerable amount of time to get exact precise. And you were saying that you can level it out later. And so I was like, and that's right. Why not just visually make sure that it's about where you want it? And so I hammer it, looking at the, well, you can't get this on the camera, but I hammer it down, kind of looking at the threads, and I know that it's about right by the threads. And then I keep all my stuff that I use over and over right here in front of me, because I have this nice little ledge right here. And then I check the torque on the pin to see what it is, and that's 100 that way and 105 that way. So
Right.
that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then I check this and just, oh yeah, you want to twist this about a eighth of a turn or so. And then you go up through the bridge becket, come through, twist it back a little bit, come this way, and now I get my little tool that I made. Where is that little tool? It's a little piece of wood. See, that's key to my, yes, thank you. And then so you can see that I taken it off on both ends so I can hold it. And that's the size of my hand. And then I look down at where I'm going to, the pin that I'm going to be putting it in, and I cut it in half. And then I hold it right there, and then I twist back here and hold it there, and then I cut it. And that takes probably like a minute off my time, because I want to make sure that nothing slides, and it's always sliding all over the place. And anyway, and then you go underneath.
Now I would take it off the hitch pin.
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot. If you don't do that, it's very difficult to twist it. I've learned that. And then I bring it back through the capo, make sure this isn't twisted. Well, it can untwist, I guess. It doesn't really matter. You get another pin. Do the same thing again. Make sure that it comes through the becket just a little bit. Put pressure against the string. Get the twister. 2.5 turns, a little extra.
Before putting it on the hole, put it back on the hitch pin.
Oh, put this. Oh, so I've been pulling it, but it has been kind of hard. So
Yeah. So if you put it on the hitch pin, wait, don't put it in the hole yet. Take it out of the hole.
oh, I see what you mean, and then pull it back.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Just took off 20 more seconds.
Exactly, because before I was like really having to pull hard.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to pull hard.
No. And
Thank
then
you.
And then the torque of the pin, as you put the pin in the hole, then you kind of tighten it as you pull the pin back.
Ah, I like that.
There you go.
Thank you. That's cool. So you want to have this pin facing that same way.
How are you?
And I start it with this. And then go down again. And I think I probably could do this more forcefully, but I think tapping it is better. Because it could go too far, and if it goes too far, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I twist this to back, I don't know, and then string this on the bridge pins. And then I look to see which side has more slack than the other one. I noticed in your video, Brigham, that you can actually tweak it a little bit. If you don't tweak it too far, because if you tweak it too far, you're going to have a ding, and it's going to fly, and you're going to have wire like that. That's my graveyard. Kind of graveyard of shame, because this is my first piano I've been doing. So, and then, oh yes, here are my parallel pliers that I made from Harbor Freight for $4 versus $70.
That's great.
And they work really good. I actually like these better than the red ones because they're more rigid. Because the long, super long ones, they have some flex in them. Right. This has way less flex.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm not trying to sell them or anything. Because they take like an hour on a grinder, which is ridiculous. It is kind of fun if you like that kind of thing. But anyway. Oh yeah, I need to get this. So you put this underneath the coil. You want to have the coil up above the becket hole, and you try not to flip yourself in the face, which I've done during this process. And you just twist it. I usually twist it about to 9 o'clock. And one thing that you want to try not to do is touch the plate with your tool, which can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah, you have to remember it's not a pry bar, it's a pole. It's a lifter, not a pry.
So you take it.
It's like the game operation.
And then I usually go in and get the becket really nice and solid here.
The plate.
Yeah,
You quickly.
you would learn those rules.
It's not a bad.
That plate would stay nice and.
Here, and I like to adjust the string at this point when it's.
It's a great idea.
So you want to have the strings fairly straight
Right.
to the
Buy the piano.
Have lugging.
the
Buy the piano.
pins.
Oh, we'd de-electrify it then. Maybe. Unless we don't like them.
And then
turn it on by remote.
just, I want these to be even. So I look at the top of the head of the pin, and I get it to the point where it's actually holding pretty good without me pulling it up.
Wait, is this burnt?
A little bit.
It's a little charred, yeah. And you can see on the blanket right here that it was that hot. So when you said putting that against your skin, that's what would happen to your skin. Yeah. You don't want that.
So it probably wasn't originally burnt.
Oh, no.
Why do you think it's burnt now?
And then I just I listened to the previous notes, and I'm probably way off pitch for what this...
Yeah, that's fine.
But I make it as like a singing voice, so it sounds like a real piano note. And I just try to make it sound... And I kind of go... I've gone down in steps. Oop, that's up. I don't know what happened there. I think it just kind of... Yeah, but... And then I just want it to sound about like a half step, but I'm not actually doing a half step.
I think you're even wasting time. Right, your coil is not tight.
This one? Oh, that one's definitely not tight. So then what I'll do is I'll look at that. I'll say, oh, that's not tight. Back it off. Try to bring it up over the becket. And then try to make them equal. Yeah, so now it's holding. And then I just get these notes to be about the same.
I think you're even wasting time getting those to be the same. I think just as long as they're somewhat musical.
Somewhat musical, you're good. Okay,
It'd
that's...
actually be really interesting.
And then I just look at it, make sure that you know, and then I'll take... And one other thing is I'll go in here with the brass
You do that. I would even do that after. I would do that on
all of them at once.
at once.
Okay, cool.
And it's
Yeah, that
also-
would speed
it's
up.
also a good idea to kind of, if you wanted to do that, bring it all generally up to pitch,
Mm-hmm.
and then go back and then kind of start tapping things and just go
Yeah.
through and tap everything all at once.
Okay, cool.
And that
I like
way,
that.
it's like one less step.
And it's easy to just go
Yeah.
all the way down. And then I'm trying to think. There was one other thing that I did.
I think the idea is that the less that you have to switch tools,
Yeah, yeah,
the
Right.
more efficient.
Totally.
You are, so
yeah.
you're not worrying about the tone.
I just
I
make
agree with that.
I just make adjustments with. And you were saying that a lot of people will say never use still on these still wires because it can add extra beats. But like you can adjust things like if it's not parallel with the.
Yeah.
But that one's pretty straight. So
Yeah, it looks
there. That's how I did it. It's like that cut my time in half, easy.
Good.
And this little tool, I don't have to use my hand because see my thumb starts to hurt underneath. I don't know why, but it does. And my tool, it might not work with the thicker strings, but I can just open that up a little bit. You know,
What's that?
it's to measure the string on coming through,
or to cut it.
and I just sight it down so it cuts the hole in half, and then I hold it here, and then when I bring it over here, I hold it there, and then I cut it.
Huh?
And it's probably saves me a minute, maybe half a minute. So there's what I learned last night.
Good.
And it was because I watched Brigham Larson's Shop Talk. I was like, there's got to be a faster way. And Brigham has to have it. So, haha.
Good. Okay. I'm glad that was
It's
handy
beneficial.
for someone.
It was like 3 years ago or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. In another shop.
Was
And you were teaching Dawn, I think. And there were 2 or 3 other guys I'd never seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, you're going to cruise through this now.
It's fun.
Yeah, just a few hours before you're at that rate. If you're at 6 minutes per pair,
Yeah.
that's about
That's really good.
that's about 20 pins per hour,
Yeah.
which overall
That's like
let's see,
3 or 4 hours.
which is about 20. It's about so that's 11 hours, 12 hours, I
Mhm.
guess, because the base is only one at a time. So it's about 12. It's 12-hour pace.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So now I want to look at Jake's Harrington. Kind of go over some of the things and have you guys do some troubleshooting.
Sure.
I've got some ideas, but I want to know your ideas. So let's go over to the shop. I brought my tools so we don't have to keep going back and forth. So this was Jake's very first Grand, right, Jake?
Yeah.
And
He was okay, I guess.
I'm gonna clean the lens real quick of this.
Where did you install these lights?
They're cool, aren't they? On the tracks.
A while ago.
it was it Don or Mike Wilson?
Mike Wilson.
You're sure it was Don?
Pretty sure.
It's both of them.
Was it?
Yeah, they both did it.
I know Don was involved.
Yeah, he helped.
Remember him talking about the extension cords?
Yep, it bought. Yeah.
Wished it was black.
Oh, instead of green. I never even noticed they were.
That's what it's open.
I was like, now I see it. I actually like the green.
Thanks. Okay. So this I'd like to do for the remainder of the time. I want to work on this for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. Just kind of going through and fixing up final details. So why don't we start by putting the action in, and maybe Jacob and Scott, if you could just kind of critique things and give your thoughts. Tell me well, keep in mind that this was Jake's very first, and a lot of it you just kind of did on your own. I just kind of trained you, right, on a few things here and there for like 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, half hour there, and then just kind of turned you loose.
Very much.
So that's no easy task.
No. Jake's the man.
Yeah. So, I mean, considering that it's his very first one, with
Not too bad.
with very limited training, you did a great job. And I think Matthew is on the calendar to tune it today, and then the movers are on the calendar to put it in the showroom today.
Wow.
So
It's already finished. Julio did his magic.
Julio did his magic.
I like this.
It's satin. I really like it.
Yeah, it was a really kind of a,
It's like
it's very brown.
yeah,
Just trying to,
yeah, it was very
That was
brown.
something that
Good
matched.
memory,
So
Stacy.
this was brown?
It was.
it was brown.
Yeah.
What's that?
It was kind of the
Long
color,
Stretch here.
Yeah.
it looked like the back of that
Fixed either
piano.
trouble.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, gruddy yellow.
right.
That kind of light brown, not good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Dark
it's
brown is
pretty
okay,
now.
but it isn't.
Nice,
Should
pretty
be black.
satin
I
black.
know.
Like a
It was like an oak, kind of a light oak.
Oh, the mahogany looks nice.
Yeah, mahogany looks good.
Yeah, it was not mahogany.
And rosewood looks very nice. Oh, yeah.
So let's get as far as we can. I don't think we'll be able to totally finish it in the 45 minutes to an hour, but I think we'll be able to at least diagnose a few things, and then maybe if we can maybe point Jake in the right direction, so that after we're done with this meeting, Jake can just kind of be turned loose and go for it. Maybe we can get done as much as we can. But sounds good.
We've already tuned this one. The special honky tonk version.
That's right. Okay. Scott, you want to look at it?
I've heard that.
What are you checking, Scott? Explain.
A lot of things.
Too many to. Okay.
So right now I'm looking at how the hammers are aligned to the strings. So I'm just looking straight down over the strings.
Yeah, the camera can kind of see that.
You can probably see it here.
Better here. Oh yeah.
Just to see how the hammers line up.
Metal tacks.
These all look good.
Oh, it's terrible.
If I had to be honest.
So that's the first thing.
Really
Okay.
super bad for hammers.
And then I'm just checking the regulation, just really slowly,
Just how it
seeing
feels.
where it lets off,
Push it
how
in.
much aftertouch there is.
Oh, and then you just have the metal hitting again instead of the felt. That's a mockery.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction is that it's actually very close. And if this is his first grand, if I'm being honest, it's closer than my first grand.
Yeah, mine too.
Awesome, Jake.
Which I was surprised actually.
You are?
I'm not.
when you push the key down in it. You just watch where the damper ends up.
Well, we're looking at a number of things. We're feeling and we're
Like feeling aftertouch and that kind of stuff.
yeah, so looking where let off is, looking at checking, feeling for like right now the dampers are coming up way too high, and so we need to bring that bar down. Because you'll feel the damper come up and then slam down on the key.
Yeah. And that will make sound.
Sometimes, but mostly not. It's just you feel
It's
it.
a feeling in the key.
Oh, I see.
Why don't we start there?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
That's when you play it really hard. Pushes this up past where it's supposed to go, and then it falls back down.
So the damper
So
kind of
hold the
goes
key
up.
down like that.
You're good?
Feel it.
Yeah.
The damper kind of comes up and then comes back down and sort of hits the back of the key.
Yeah, so you'll feel it in the key when you press it. So if you like do a scale or something.
Okay, so what's that? Do you remember what that part is called, Jake?
Say what?
Do you remember what that part is called that stops the upward travel of the damper?
I can't remember.
It's called the upstop.
Oh.
That logically makes
Upstop.
sense, actually.
What a nice
Okay,
name.
well, why don't we,
The Germans must have made that name.
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
will you clear that table off? Let's use that table.
This is probably for this one.
Yeah, it is. That goes to that one.
Figure out why I couldn't get this.
Can you feel it?
Jake, do you know where the bolts are?
I have never been able to find those.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we better. That's something we need to fix. We better fix that.
Yep, gotta fix that.
I'll be back.
Okay, so what do we have underneath? Looks like they are threaded. Threaded things in there.
Trying to find what bolt to use.
So let's. Did you look in the box?
I don't think we ever had a box for this.
Oh, really? That's a problem. Okay. Well, then why don't you work on this, Scott? I'm gonna see if I can go figure out which thread it is, and why don't you work on C1? C1 is misfiring.
It's misfiring? What does that mean? That is a misfire?
Yep.
That's a misfire. But it doesn't do it every time.
To put a lot
Just
of
when you
force
play
on
really
it.
hard.
And some people do that like Joe.
Yeah. Any idea what that is?
So why does it need to be adjusted, the key bit?
Possible I didn't put it in there.
Oh, look, it's down way lower.
It's the ratio.
Oh. Don't trip on that bag of metal. Like that.
So what's causing that, Scott?
Oh.
I don't know if it has something to do with the jack position.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not.
So it needs to come
It's not resetting.
this way a little bit.
Yeah, so you see this jack is lined up with the back of the knuckle like it should be.
Right.
If you look at this one, it's more
Oh,
like the front of it.
Yeah.
So it's quite a bit further forward.
Oh,
And so it's just kind of slipping out
yeah, you're
in
right.
front of the knuckle instead of pushing it up.
But isn't that the B0? This is C1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's way further.
Yeah, see how it's way different.
So we just need to move that back.
Cool. So how do you move it back?
So the jack has a little screw right here, and that adjusts this little button. And so you move the button back,
And
the
it'll
jack
move everything.
will go that way.
Right.
So a lot of these old-time
Must have turned it the wrong
American
way.
pianos, they use standard, that like this. You need
It's a little
where the wire screws on. So what'd you discover, Jake?
The jack is
jack
too far
position is
Good.
too far.
Fatter than 5/16?
Yeah, it needs to be like another
Too far.
Okay, try this one.
forward. Try this one.
Yes, when you have it out, you gotta kind of put your hand there so it doesn't fly
It
out.
doesn't fly out.
So high enough that it'll still let off and everything, just enough to keep it in
It could
place.
work, but it could strip.
Better?
Let me try it.
That's better.
16/4 is.
I think you got it.
I think I got it.
Done.
Done.
That's it?
Yeah,
just one
that looks
more
good.
of those.
No, that's just
Put,
the
you
same.
just put it back on now? Or is there anything
So
else
there's
that you need to,
Yeah.
what about?
It's just
So that's another
fix.
thing we could fix while it's out.
Yeah, might
This
as
is a
well
sample,
see
so
how
you
that
know what
one
the
is.
size is.
It's not quite level with the rest of them.
So that's 1/2 inch. What's that? That doesn't say quarters.
So that's actually adjusted on the key. So it's back underneath here. Just have these little
Not
screws.
sure what happened there, but
Oh, these need to be adjusted
Yeah.
for that
So you
one
raise that
hammer?
screw up and
Yeah,
that
and
pushes
it'll
that
raise
up,
it up.
pushes that up.
And let's get the,
Got it.
let's get the line.
One more adjustment.
First, here's the wire. Well, can you just figure that out from the wire and then just add a little extra? Up in the hook? So I would go that way and another 1/2 inch or so.
Yeah, so, you wanna grab a tape measure?
Wait, what's that?
Wow, it's so awesome.
The hammer was
So one
too low.
3/4.
Mm.
Well, it's like in the middle there. There's some pretty seconds.
Probably 2.5.
Yeah. Yeah, 2.5. So nice. Where do you get that? That's right. I need to give you one of those. So nice.
That's great.
The flat.
okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Most applications you don't need to have that coil.
Right. Okay,
So
so,
in a house, maybe working on a roof or something. You need that rigidity.
Scott, if you ever I don't know if you ever used this. I made this a few years ago. Comes in handy every once in a while. All of these are labeled, and so we just determine that
It's like the drill bits.
everything is labeled so that we can just go. So we determine that it's a half-inch course. Is the thread.
Size to look for.
What's that?
And you know which size to look for.
Exactly. I don't know if I ever showed that to you.
No.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we don't have half-inch, just handy. It's not a very common. That's a really big bolt.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Oh, sorry.
I think so. I think those are all 3/8.
Sorry, Peter.
Excuse me.
Okay. Jacob, you want to talk Jake through what you're doing?
So that rail is kind of wobbly on this side. What I noticed was that the hole was majorly stripped and possibly corroded. So I always tend to side on, err on being over protective of that, I guess. But so I drilled it out, and I'm filling it with a dowel, so a hardwood dowel. And once that's in, then we can drill a new hole, and it won't be wobbly anymore.
Is it better back here? Oh yeah, thanks. That would be great.
So, yeah.
That's better. All I had was your arm on the other side, so I can see now.
Yeah, so this was here, and it was wobbling. So when I took the screw off, it just didn't look right. So I drilled the hole a lot larger to fit that dowel, and then I put the dowel in with some glue and let that set, and then we can put a new hole in there. So.
Okay. So, do you know what that's called, Scott? That C1 that you repaired, the jack station? Yeah. So that's a term. Cheating jacks. Yeah.
Cheaters.
That's so funny. Who's jacking? What's the cheat? You mean putting the wood in like that?
No. I'm changing topics.
Oh.
So do you know the test for cheating jacks? Scott?
Can you get really hard?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That'll show it.
Oh. The cheating jack is when you hit it and it didn't play.
Yeah. I think
That's when you usually notice it, at least.
right. You know
Does
the
it just
locking?
slip behind it or something?
It just kind of it just kind of it feels like a misfire.
Well,
So
because the
it's totally
cheat is
slips.
because it hasn't returned back underneath the knuckle. So instead of returning all the way under, it's resting.
Yeah.
And so when you hit the key, it shoots up, and then it's just the rep lever pushing it up.
Okay.
So yeah, it totally feels like a misfire.
Good. So you know the rocking test?
Oh, yeah, I saw that at the factory. They,
There, that one. There's one. There's one.
so what are you feeling for? Oh, it just slips.
Yeah, it just kind of slips out. Shouldn't slip on
You know what's what happened when I was playing it?
So we can, and some of these, by the way, it doesn't necessarily mean that you put the jack in a bad spot, but rather, given that we're using really old knuckles, we just have to make certain accommodations for old knuckles.
Because they're worn down. Over
Yeah.
time. Or maybe me.
Do you want to do some, Jake?
Are you putting a lot of pressure on it?
Uh-huh.
Is there a range for how far you move the hammer? Because eventually it'll just let off, right? Yeah, I might have been going to.
Oh, that one slipped really easy. Wait. Is it if it falls down like that? That like that?
You don't have an equivalent to this in an upright, do you? Brent? Or is there?
I don't think
Cheating?
so.
Cheating?
No.
Cheating jack?
Well, let me think.
It would just be if they don't return all the way. So it'd be lost motion, I guess.
Found motion.
Found motion.
Anti-lost motion.
Found motion, I like that. Finding jack?
Yeah, yeah.
The Grand cheats him. And
Next one.
So are you just pushing down super hard?
Not super hard, but
Most of them have the problem.
yeah. Into the phone.
So I can make it slip, but so I was pushing too hard, evidently.
I don't know.
No, it's not doing it.
So we can just give it a knees. Where's the tool? Just give it a little bit more. So maybe what I'll do is
Can't see
I'll
it
do
from
all
here.
except
Good morning.
Julio!
Good morning, Julio.
¿Qué pasa, amiga?
¿Qué pasa?
¿Qué dicen?
Yeah.
So what are you adjusting?
Jack position.
And where is that?
So if you look straight down through this window,
Mm-hmm.
I just want these jacks are a little bit too far.
So are you adjusting the button?
So have a look down through this window and you'll see that I'm adjusting right down through there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
See that?
Oh, it's moving this little.
I'm gonna turn that.
Oh, I got you. And what is that
And that's going to
adjusting?
change the alignment
Uh-huh.
of the jack to the knuckle. So if I look here,
Oh, I see. You're moving this
yeah.
little piece of wood right there.
So when you look,
The jack
when you
is-
look here, you can
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
look at this angle here. You can actually see the jack is a little bit too far towards the pianist.
Right,
It's
and so
supposed
you're
to-
bringing it this way.
Yeah.
Ah. And so it's slipping, so you're moving it forward so it's more on the center of the knuckle.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So I'm gonna go a little bit. A little bit further than textbook. Textbook, you're not lined right up, but I'm gonna go further.
You do that because it's old,
Yeah.
just to compensate?
Longevity.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't cheat.
It's so,
What's that?
it's so funny. Cheating Jack. We need to have a guy working here named Jack. That'll make it extra funny.
Cheating Jack.
And it starts with a J too.
Lots of J's around
Lots
here.
of
huh?
J's around.
Jake, Jacob.
Jackson.
Jackson.
Jack.
There you go, Jackson.
So,
There are a whole bunch of D's that work on my team. It's hilarious. We're gonna hire a guy, and we're like,
Doug, Dave, Dan.
yeah, there's two Dans, David and Darren. Like, whoever applies for that has to have a name that starts with a D, or you're not hired.
Whoever applies for what?
For a position on my team.
So I'm not really being super scientific about it. I'm just kind of giving it about like that.
Yeah.
About what is that?
You have to.
Half the turn.
Rotation. To the left. See if, I'm still cheating a bit. Okay, so Jacob and Scott. Jake said that he's been having a problem with leveling the hammers, that he'll level the hammers, he'll set the hammer line, and then every time they'll kind of come back, they sort of bounce and they're at a different level. So that's the problem.
Notice this one's lower. Quite a bit.
Yeah, so like
How do you level the hammers?
By a lot? By like how much it's moved right now, or?
yeah, like this one, look at that.
Oh,
like
that's
that one,
interesting.
Depending on where I
Is it the cheating Jack?
That's
You
interesting,
need
it
to
goes
check
back.
the rep lever height.
It'll stay there sometimes.
that's a rep lever height problem.
Hmm.
So why is that?
It's not just a
Can you explain that, Scott?
So if the rep lever is above the jack, then the hammer is resting on the rep lever when it should be kind of resting on both. And the rep lever, so the jack is sturdy, you can't push down on it. The rep lever is just a spring.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's resting on the rep lever, it's just on the spring and it can kind of move up and down. There's no hard stop like there is on the jack.
Good.
Hmm.
Exactly. Did you get that, David?
Mm.
Come look over. Well, I guess we can look over there. Right there. So what Scott just explained is the knuckle is what is the contact point of the hammer, right?
Yeah.
So what determines the height of the hammer is based on where the knuckle is resting.
Right.
So there's two spots that the knuckle is resting. One is the rep lever here.
Okay.
One is the jack.
Right. If the jack is above the rep lever.
The jack is a hard stop. You can't.
Yeah.
Can't-
That distance
it-
is the constant.
Yeah. Whereas the rep lever, it's just based on a spring,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not a hard stop. So it's sort of wherever the spring happens to stop it. So it's kind of random.
Mm-hmm.
So the relationship of the jack to the rep lever needs to be fixed. See, the knuckle needs to be resting basically on both. If it's just resting on the jack, there'll be a problem because the jack won't be able to get back under. If it's resting just on the rep lever, there'll be a problem because the hammer line will be inconsistent. So either way, you've got a problem. So you've got to adjust it so that your knuckles are resting on both the jack and the rep lever simultaneously. And actually, I would argue that well, I mean, it's the whole purpose of the rep lever so the jack can always get back under. So it actually has to slightly be resting more on the rep lever, but I mean, it's not noticeable. And the way to determine that, here, you want to take over? I'll video, and you want to
Wink.
explain the joys of rep lever.
Sure. So get used to lower back pain.
Isaac Thomas is watching.
Yeah.
Work already. That's right, Isaac. You better believe it.
So what you're going for is you want to feel some friction when you push down on the jack over here. So reaching over, you want to feel some friction and possibly even see the hammer move ever so slightly, but not too much where it's going to have too much friction and can't come back. So again, if it's too low, then that jack is going to be, it's going to have too much friction on the knuckle as you pull back, and it also, if you go way too far, then it just won't even return. And then if it's too high, then like right now, it just, you can't feel it at all.
So it's not even touching the knuckle
Right.
at all. And you want it a little higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just barely
Right,
touching it, but not resting on it.
right.
Because you were saying that you want it to rest on what is that called? The repeat?
Rep lever?
Rep lever, yeah. You want a little teeny bit on that.
Mm-hmm.
But enough on the jack. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some actions are different. Sometimes they're up here, sometimes it's down there.
Oh, interesting.
So you just want to make sure you know
I can see that.
what adjustment is doing what.
Just like a lever
To
that
the
you
whipping?
can
So this
Cool.
is adjusting that button right there,
Mhm.
which adjusts the height of this lever when it's at rest. See that? So if this button goes up, where's this going to be going? In the lever. It's going to go down. So since it's not touching, we want it to go down, right?
I always think of it as righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you turn it to the right, it's going to tighten your relationship with the knuckle.
Mm.
If you turn it to the left, it's going to loosen your relationship with the knuckle. That's so I don't have to go through the, now this lever does that, what does that do to the jack and to the, I just think I need more jack, I need a tighter jack, I'm going to tighten the screw. That's how I shortcut it.
So the way I do is usually is at first I just do it to touch, where I'm like, okay, this kind of feels like it's even the jack
So you're just
and the rep
feeling-
lever.
Yeah.
Almost even to the
Right. But again, it's
rep lever.
you're just moving it quickly to that point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put the hammer down, and you'll see right now it's too much because it won't return. You'll have to push it back so
Oh,
that
yeah,
it returns
pushing it,
back
yeah.
underneath the knuckle.
Oh, so it's not springing back. You have to actually do it with your finger. I see.
So Jake, feel that.
Yeah.
So this is the example of it having too much.
So I would do it with you're right-handed, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
So do it with your left hand
Mhm.
because you're going to have your tool in your right hand,
Ah,
and you're more sensitive reaching around like this and feeling the jack
Yeah.
like that with your middle finger. You can really feel the jack as I push it down with my middle finger. I can really feel the jack scrape on the knuckle. Go slower. Feel that jack scrape on the knuckle.
Doesn't
And you don't want that scrape. You want either the slightest amount of friction or
Sometimes you don't feel it.
or nothing.
Yeah.
But the problem with nothing is you don't know if you're way below.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I like to do it at first, just get it even on the top there. If you're fairly off, then just put it to even right here with your thumb, with your finger, and then you can go from there.
Yeah.
So right now, again, because I went up too high, this is too low, so it needs to come down. So left, please, right.
And is this to make it so that the hammers are level? Or is this the cheating jack
Yeah.
problem?
So this will make it
So it's a little bit
when you
less.
do level the hammers, they'll stay where you put them.
Oh, yeah, right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So just kind of tiny movements. So what you want to do is whenever you're moving any screw, you kind of want to just look at where you are. So if you can somehow track where your fingers are and then just kind of move it in maybe an eighth or a 16th. You don't want to go too much, but just trying to keep track so that if you've overshot it, you can come back to at least where you were. That way you're not going one way and then going back too far and then just waffling back and forth.
It's like wall tuning. It's the same principle. It's so annoying. Go too far back.
So that, I would call that good.
When you first start,
One.
it's inevitable.
Yeah. There's a few good tests. One. How do you know? How do you? Why did you call that one good?
So with this one, I can feel the jack in contact with the knuckle,
With the leather, the top of the jack scraping on the leather.
but I can also feel that it returns,
Good.
which is important.
Yeah.
I'm also looking at the hammer, so I see the hammer kind of dip down a little bit, and then I see it return.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to see that.
That's
And
how
you
you know
want
it's in
some
the right
people-
spot.
Yeah, some people call it winking. You want to see the hammer wink.
Winking at cheating jack.
Yeah. So those are the two that I look for.
May I?
I don't know.
So you're-
Scott, do you have anything to add?
Where are you feeling?
So he's pushing down on the jack like that.
Oh, I see.
So Dave, come over on this side
To the left.
and press down your middle finger or whatever.
Hold your
Okay.
palm there.
Uh-huh. Oh, I see. So it's stationary.
Yeah.
I can see the wink motion. I don't really feel it. Should you feel something? Is there a little bit of?
You can feel it, yeah. It's just something that
Oh,
you'll
just
develop.
barely.
Just a little friction at the
Right at
beginning.
the end.
It's something you'll develop.
I got it. It's right there, right at the very end.
Yeah. I would go as far as saying if I was being nitpicky, I think I could bring it down just a little bit more. But it's acceptable where it is.
Yeah.
So.
And it's this right here.
Mm-hmm.
Tighten the relationship.
Well, that brings up tighten.
Makes it so it's less.
Makes it so the jack, it tightens your jack onto the knuckle.
Yeah, it brings it. Okay.
Jacob brings up a good point, though. There's actually a good range. There's actually some debate in the piano technician community on how tight your jack should be. On one extreme, you have people who say that there should be no contact with as the jack is coming back. The jack should not contact the leather at all. There should be it's almost like lost motion. And then and they say that ensures that the jack gets under every single time if there's no contact. And then on the other extreme, what's that?
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then on the other extreme, I've heard people say, no, that's absolutely wrong, that you should regulate it such that the jack, if you go as slowly as you can with your finger controlling it, that you can actually make the jack get stuck on the knuckle.
Oh, wow. That's the other extreme.
That's the other extreme. And the argument that those people make is that's the very tightest that you can possibly get it, and nobody is ever going to play that softly when they're actually playing the piano.
Literally, that's what they say, yeah.
Yeah, that is what they say. And so since nobody's ever going to be playing that softly, nor is it really even possible, I don't know, to play that softly, to make the jack get stuck, that's kind of pushing it right up to the point of perfection. I'm much more on the side, I think, I'm on the side of speed. I like speed. I like rushing through certain processes. And this is one of them this is probably my least favorite of all of Grand Regulation. And so
Leveling keys.
yeah, leveling keys is pretty bad too. So my feeling is, I want to get it. Maybe my goal. I'm going to err on the side of caution, and I'm just going to get it done. And by erring on the side of caution is, I mean that side of the argument that says if you go as softly as you can get the jack stuck. That's like regulating for the concert tonight, and if anything changes, and it
sneeze on it.
Yeah, right. It's gonna. So I'm gonna maybe. What I like to do is find that point, and then back it off.
That might sound like a large range, but it literally is just like the difference of tweaking it just a tiny bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's almost not even a notable difference.
Yeah, that's right.
But in the jack, it makes a huge difference.
Totally. Yeah, and I'll say this about speed, and then we'll start doing some. The difference in how it actually affects from one side of that argument to the other, how much of it actually affects the touch. I don't think I can tell a difference. I don't think I could look at, play one note and say, this note has been regulated this way, that note has been regulated that way. Both are so close that and the amount of time that it takes to get everything exactly precisely so that when the jack you can get it stuck, or
Well, it goes
it's not
without saying
worth
that
it.
there's so much other things happening at once when you press down
Yeah.
on the key. It would be really hard to just sit down and play some notes and go, okay, this one
Yeah.
has this problem, when in regulation you're doing so much.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay. Well, then why don't we just end the Facebook Live broadcast there, and then we'll just get to work doing this, so the Facebook Live people don't need. Oh, Jim Busby is watching. Hey Jim,
Yeah, Jim.
if you have any thoughts on, I don't know how long you've been watching Jim.
Speaking of speed,
Yeah, speaking
The
of
Speedmeister.
Mr. Speed himself, Jim, if you have any thoughts on what we've been talking about, rep lever height, then by all means type it in. So Jacob or Scott, do you want to do some while we wait for see if Jim
go for it.
has any thoughts on that?
Do we have more of these tools?
I do.
Is it bad that up here there are?
Hey Brigham, I've got a tool like this in my office. Sorry, what were you saying, Brigham?
Is it bad that up here there are newer hammer sticks with like a I don't know, like when you enter an amusement park, there's like a semicircle on the top. It's like a
So you're just going through
and
filling.
these ones.
Yeah.
It's
To
making
get
it
a kind of a
taller, so they're
preliminary-
getting further.
I
Is
usually
that
feel them all
bad?
just to make sure they're all close.
These three
Then
right
I'll put
here.
the hammers down and go from the front. It's like the second one feels pretty low to me.
That they go further?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Show me the other ones
Lower than
that
this
don't go as far. Yeah, that's okay. That's just a matter of, because hammers,
Because the string's right here.
right, so it stops it well before then. Hey Brigham, will you look in my office?
These are the little.
For the, see, look at that tool that Scott is using,
Then you're all
The
very
double
nice.
one.
and I've got one in my office just like that. Would you go grab that? Along with the other tools that are right next to it.
This room, just pick a section.
So Jim, what we've been talking about is the different sides of the argument of where to put the rep lever. On one extreme, ensuring that the rep lever is so high that jack gets under every single time, and on the other end of the argument, making it so the Richard Davenport side of the argument, which is that you should be able to regulate or you should be able to release the jack, allowing it to get caught up on the knuckle if you go as softly as you possibly can. So please chime in with your thoughts on that, Jim.
Don't spend too much time.
Okay, Scott, what are you doing?
So I'm feeling the relationship of the jack and the rep lever. Jim always said he liked to use his middle finger, so I'm doing that.
Yeah, Jim's good at using his middle finger.
Thought it was a little more sensitive. So I'm just getting them basically level. Most of them are a bit low. And then I'll go back and check from the front to get it exact.
You this
Yeah, exactly. So this is the one that we'll use. And we just needed these from
for you, Joel?
mm-hmm.
Why do we need two of these? Wait, is it straight here?
So Jake, is this making sense? Yeah, but don't turn it, Brigham.
Because it's already there.
Jake, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
it's
this
starting
making
to make
sense on-
sense.
Yeah. And you're understanding why you're having such a hard time with your hammer line being consistent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I wonder if we might want to center some of these jacks a little more.
Anything rubber?
This one is.
Rubbing against the wood.
That's
Yeah,
right here.
it's kind of rubbing against the side.
Oh yeah, same with this one.
Do we have a little hammer?
And this one too.
And you have to throw it on the floor first.
What's
That's
that?
key.
Loosens it up, makes it look
Oh, that hammer. What's he do with this?
I invited Jim to join us on camera, but it says can't bring Jim on camera. Too bad.
Why not?
I don't know.
It's probably a good thing that they have to approve it.
So I have a
What's
question for Jim, if it's allowed.
I said it's probably a good thing that they have to prove that they go on camera.
Oh, yeah, right.
They're like brushing their teeth or doing
Uh-huh,
something.
yeah.
I have a question for Jim, if this is allowed. Jim, what is the fastest fine tune you ever did? Like for an emergency or something? I've heard he's like one of the fastest around.
I would guess 20
20 minutes?
20 to 25 minutes would be my guess.
Keith Kopp always spoke about how fast.
He'd probably say 15 or something.
Yeah, he probably would.
Probably, and he probably did it.
It's measured in parsecs, guys.
Yeah. Hey, Jake, go. Yeah, this is a good thing to learn.
Who said he is? Okay, so now let's see if I can.
It's kind of right up against the window. You want it to be a little more centered like that. Right now it's like, it's a little bit loose. But. So, I'm gonna support right here. And that's on the side I want it to move to. And what we're actually doing is we're bending the metal pin a little bit. So, getting that side supported on that little shelf.
Now, how do I check
Tap
the
a little
link?
bit. Not too hard. Check it as you go
Yeah.
until it's centered.
Oh,
This is the part where you're using
that's easy to do.
Yeah, it's really simple, really fast. Jack won't get stuck.
Now, can you do it without removing the?
I've tried it
Ripping?
that way. I prefer just to remove it.
Mm.
Where did I scoot?
That's probably too high, right?
And especially if there's a lot of them, you can just take the rail off, and
It's not
it's
slippery.
really quick.
How many of them are there?
I didn't see a lot, but there's a lot better borderline where they're not rubbing, but they're close.
Mhm.
this one.
It's
I
not
found
slipping
a
at all.
couple done there.
Yeah, you're not looking for that.
Okay. Put those on
Oh.
if you want.
So you're feeling
Let me just get this on real quick.
for the friction on the top of the jack to the leather. So again, I would recommend standing up and
I'm just trying to
Feeling
see
it.
it.
yeah.
Get it in.
Yeah, that's definitely not winking. Teeny wink. But not very much.
Kinda checking the
So this is to the point where you're just tweaking it a tiny bit.
Where is that? There we go. A little wink, not much wink though.
Can you feel it?
Yeah, right at the very end. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know.
You're going too fast.
I'm twisting it too much, or
You gotta. Yeah, I'm not feeling anything. So you gotta tighten that a little bit.
I can feel a little bit at the very end.
Okay, good. Then you're probably about there. You're within the right range. If you're feeling it a little bit, I would just move on
Okay.
because,
Will
like
you
I
feel
said,
that? Will you see if I got it?
yep. Yeah, it's within that range of what I was talking about. I can actually get that to get hung up if I go super, super slowly.
So that's on that one
But
extreme.
nobody's gonna ever, yeah.
What's that?
Play
Yeah.
If you want to take the rail off entirely, that might help later on if you have to do any more. Looks like that on mine.
You can just take those out.
You want to take this? I'm going to end this broadcast. Okay, there's our Facebook Live. Grand regulation and string installation. Come join us, please, every Wednesday morning at about 6:15, 6:20. Come check it out. Facebook Live. Thanks for watching.